No man do they call me, my mother and my father, and all my comrades as well. Hey everybody, hope everyone is doing well. Um, Things are a little bit busy on my end. I mentioned it in my community section, uh, but today I'm kind of going to go over some channel news, discuss some things worth celebrating, and discuss some issues that are going to become relevant as time goes on. And I will do a Q&A, and we'll hopefully have a good time. Because first off, I am nearly at 16,000 subscribers. Yeah, I'm at 15,946 subscribers, and I'm currently in the middle of a pretty good uptick in subscribers. So I guess this is sort of a nearly 16,000 subscribers extravaganza. Um, the thing that has, I think, pushed it over is Og the Ogren getting into the transport has had a recent bump. Um, it's gotten a big kick in views. I've gotten a lot of comments coming up on it. And I think that kind of happens whenever a new viral video about Ogrins comes out. Because I've gotten a bunch of clicks through suggestions after people watch certain Ogren videos. And I think one came out recently. So Og has been getting a lot of attention. People are going back and rewatching the series. Hopefully, that's also funneling people to the second series. And you know, it's a nice time of growth. It's a nice time of things kind of paying off. And so it looks like we got some people in here now. We're down to 4. And I apologize for we're not doing something exciting like growing the tribe or doing another Coram Pere thing or having one of the other Vox casts like Adrian Pius or Cyrus Amani or Kevon Jones. But the other news that's coming up is that I am trying to land an internship. I'm getting to the end of my schooling for my master's degree in clinical counseling, and the next chunk of time is going to be trying to get an internship, getting an internship, and then working towards licensure, so I can, do what Kevon Jones does. That's actually one of the reasons I do Kevon Jones and why I actually try to use some therapeutic techniques when I'm talking about him, because it literally helps me practice as much as the things that Kevon Jones does are very silly sometimes. I do try to sprinkle in information that is correct about like human psychology. Generally speaking, sometimes I'm very silly about it. So don't take anything I say on Kevon Jones as actual advice, but like it's like a couple of things where it's like it's kind of true. It's kind of true. But the schedule is I have basically one more class, which will be starting in a couple of weeks. That class will last 3 months, and then once that class is done, I will have another 3 weeks break, and then I should be starting my internship if I can get everything done and everything gets accepted, and I'm good to go. If that doesn't happen, then I'm going to have another like 3-4 months where I'm going to have to go back, rework everything, and get everything in. And if that and then once I'm in my internship, that's going to be 6 months of internship, getting hours, and then I'm going to have to get licensure and get a job. And then once I have a job, I'm going to hopefully be helping people out. All right, so we got 7 people on. Let's see who's all here. We got Eric Rayner. I made your guinea pigs? No, because I wasn't really giving. I was not conducting therapy. Guinea pigs is a strong word. What we do frequently is we will do case studies where we will sit down with somebody else who's in our class, and they'll be given like patient history, and they will be given like what the person's mental problems are, and then we go through counseling with them, uncovering stuff about them, and start working through their problems. So I'd say it's more like that. It's role playing in order to practice techniques. All right, so we got Eric Rayner. I hope you're okay, and I hope you're doing okay. I know things in Eastern Europe are a little difficult right now. So hopefully you're safe. Aaron Lee, welcome. Commander Baneblade, welcome. One of the Blood Ravens. Everyone, hide your stuff. We got Zachary Weaver, aka Orpheus, numero uno moderator on my Discord. Which, for those of you who have not been able to make it to my Discord, let me pull that up. I really ought to have the thing saved before I start streaming, but I always forget to do that. So, give me 1 second. Let me post that in the stream. Boop. When are we getting a Purium video explaining the origins of the Squigsters of Battle? I'm working on that. I gotta figure out the equivalent of the Age of Apostasy, and then figure out the origin of the Squigsters of Battle. I'll figure it out. I want to work in the Sisters of Battle in Depurium. It will happen at some point. Well, I know that Poland is receiving refugees. I don't know how you're doing, but there is a war on the border of Mexico. It's the drug war. There's like the Mexican government is fighting the drug cartels pretty much nonstop. I don't know how many deaths there are a year, but the Mexican government is in an ongoing conflict with territory held by drug cartels. So there is in fact a war, and states that are bordering Mexico frequently have problems with drug trafficking and violent spillover from the drug war. So instead of women, they're squigs. Yeah, orcs don't have gender. Despite being du bois, they don't have gender. The Sisters of Battle also could be, the other option is that they are human. They're female humans that are, for one reason or another, dedicated to Gork and Mork. They're regular orcs had just been hit by a shrink ray. What Mad Doc would have come up with a shrink ray? That is just abominable. But kind of getting back to, so the long-term effects of my internship thing. So I mentioned internship. Once I start my internship, that might affect upload schedules. I am going to be doing 20 to 30 hours a week doing that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to schedule it in a way where I can continue to upload in the way I'm used to. And then once the internship's over, if I get a job, that is definitely going to impact my ability to upload. My plan is definitely to keep the channel going, but it might become a 3 videos a week, if I get a job, maybe 1 video a week. It really depends on what I'm doing and what my schedule turns out to be. So. Yeah, I know Biden met with NATO, and they met. I know he's in Europe. They had the emergency NATO summit. I hadn't heard the latest, but it makes sense that he's going to Poland. But I won't as much as Warhammer does discuss politics. I think the real world the real world violence is like something that's very serious and not something I want to try to tackle when I know a limited amount of information about it. But yeah, 40K now. Getting back to things I want to do with Depurium, that's definitely something I want to work on, is expanding more stuff with Depurium, following up more stuff with the Primeworks. I kind of wanted to take a break, and my break kind of got sidetracked because I got to writing more stuff with Orcs Discuss, which became a pretty popular series, which takes place in Depurium. And I'm also I want to do some stuff with like a day in Depurium, where I do kind of one-off stories, because a lot of people have ideas about things that they want to see happen in Depurium. And I think one of the ways I can tackle a lot of these ideas is by doing one-off stories that kind of help paint a picture of the totality of the kind of give you a better picture of how the whole thing functions. Because I have a pretty good understanding of like how orcs work, and like an internal logic of how they think and the way they behave. And then it's like, well, what would need to happen for them to get along with humans, given their violent tendencies? And one of the issues is it's always going to be a problem. Orcs are a violent race, so it's very difficult for them to exist in the same space as humans. You enjoyed the Karl Marx episode of Orcs Discuss. I was pretty proud of that. And I actually am fairly confident I have some communist fans, as well as some pretty staunch anti-communist fans. And I think by and large part, people appreciated the way I talked about it. There were a couple details that I oversimplified for the sake of making jokes. But I kind of got across a number of the issues that Marx was talking about. Now, am I going to eventually do Marx's equivalent on the opposite side, Ayn Rand, who, left the Soviet Union and has some pretty strong opinions against not just communism, but communist ethos and altruism in general? Maybe. I got to get a good idea of how to tackle it, because some ideas are not as funny when you throw them up against an orc. Because it's like there's a lot of ideas in humanity where orcs just won't engage with the idea. It's just like, I don't know what that is, so. Idea, the age of apostrophe. What happens when a really smart grot takes over most of Depurium's resources when two Primorcs take a trip into the warp to fight demons and Spiky gets? It certainly could happen if Landmine Rust and Maggie de Redden get a little too involved in fighting in the warp. Then somebody else could seize the reins of power. Another suggestion. Now you're having disturbing thought. Maybe some sect of the Sisters of Battle couldn't keep up with their devotion to the Emperor, exiled from the Imperium. These exiled Sisters of Battles find the violence of orcs somehow appealing, and they dedicate themselves to Gork and Mork, and thereby decorate their armor with orky gubbins and paint themselves green. Like I said, there's a couple of options of working in Sisters of Battle, and I'm kind of working on which one would be the funniest and most interesting. So, will we see more Og? Yes. I've already started Og. I just did an Og episode. We there if you go into the playlists, you have Og the Ogren, and then the second series is Og the Ogren Returns. And I just he was one of my most recent videos in my series that I did. It's a new story, new characters, new thing going on, and I'm sort of getting to the most recent period. I was having trouble figuring out how I was going to transition to the next part of the story, and I think I gotten over that hump. So same Og, and yeah, it's Og. It's Og 5 years later. Same Og, same. It's just 5 years. It takes place 5 years later, and I won't give away the story. You can figure out, because this story is a lot more about. That's not a big time mystery, but there's a lot more. It's not quite the same as, Tyranids are invading a planet. We need to fight the Tyranids. This is a little bit more. It's a little bit more complicated, I think. At least in the antagonist, I think. We'll see. We'll see what happens at the end of 2. If we're following, would the third Og series be called Og Strikes Back? I don't know. I think I'd through Og 2 before I get to Og 3. But I do really like that people like the Og series. I really like Og as a character. My suspicion is the second series is going to be. I'm going to be done with Og at least for a while. I'd need to figure out what I'd want to do with him, because the Return of Og, the Revenge of Og. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out what I want to do. And again, for those of you that want the link to my Discord, it is right there. So I'm going to post that on occasion as we're discussing. Og as the governor. I already have an Ogren governor. I think that's been interesting. The two settings that I really like. I guess I have 3 settings at this point. My recent stories have been a lot of world building, because we have growing the tribe, which is kind of growing and developing the area where Snodius is doing things. And then it goes. Then I also have Og the Ogren. Not Og the Ogren. I have Governor Greg, where a bunch of stuff is taking place in Coram Peri 5, and then I also have Deperium. So I have the planet that Snodius is on. I have Coram Peri 5, and I have Deperium, which includes Earth, which I've been doing some more stuff with. All just kind of filling it out and making it an interesting place for people to exist. With my dream is that I can build it up enough that it's like an RP setting. And for those of you who are interested in role playing in any of those settings, we do have stuff set up in the Discord, and different role playing events happen. With the Skaven being in the Governor Greg situation, do you think you'll make a series where the Skaven travel from fantasy to 40K to see what they are like. Sorry for the recent. No, it's okay. I will get to rambling, and I will miss things that people say as I'm kind of thinking and talking about stuff. But I would say I'm kind of interested in Skaven being in 40K because I think they're one of the more interesting races that exist in fantasy / Age of Sigmar. They're equal parts menacing, but also like kind of silly, but also like they're disgusting murder rats. So I think they could fit very well in the grim darkness of the far future. I could see them as like an abhuman strain that got out of control, or they could be something that was created by chaos, and you can kind of bring in the great horned rat as a chaos god. So we'll see how that kind of it's a consideration. It's definitely something I'm interested in. Yeah, I've heard of Warpstone. It's like a thing that it kind of mimics technology. It is like, warp powered stuff that then powers all the ramshackle contraptions of of the Skaven. Um, I am just less familiar with fantasy. I know some of the stuff about it, but it's very cursory and it's not a world. The reason I haven't written fantasy stuff, partially it's less popular, but like I'm not a trend chaser, um, but I also know less about it and I'm less interested in it. Because from my understanding of fantasy is it's all taking place on one planet, and there is a set like landscape of where people are and where different forces are and place where people fight and all that different stuff. So like I am limited in my ability to create a whole like if I want to I can be like, here's a planet, it's somewhere, anyone can be fighting anyone, and this planet can be any way that I want it to be, as opposed to fantasy kind of takes place in a more codified world where things are more cut and dry. um, Yeah, I'm not a big fan of fantasy. Like Skaven are more akin to 40K orcs than fantasy orcs are. I don't think fantasy orcs are all that funny. They're like a little funny, but they're mostly just kind of standard orcs. Goblins are really funny, um, but I never. That's part of the reason I'm less interested in fantasy. Is like I really like 40K orcs. They are so they are so absurd. And there's a lack of absurdity among orcs in fantasy because orcs function in fantasy. Orcs are where the fantasy is where orcs come from. In general, the genre, not the Warhammer fantasy setting. Um, I like orcs being translated into space and being given enormous, ridiculous weapons. Doodly doo, doo doo doo. I'm reading through people's comments. Yep, warpstone is simultaneously magical amplifier, drugs, fuel, and technically radioactive. Yeah, that's about my understanding of what it was. Quick questions: are all orc clans represented in Depurium, or are they all blood axes? They're a mix. They're a mix of clans. I think I say that in my Primorc video. Um, that they're all from different clans. And it's a little bit of a break of because the different space morons in the Primorcs, do they identify more with the orc clan that they belong to, or do they identify with more with their legion? Um, do orc clans make as much sense? Because I think Depurium is way more integrated than a lot of other orc forces. They're more likely to use like combined arms. They're more likely to have battle groups that are made up of a bunch of different clans. It's a similar thing that you see with Gazgul, that Gazgul can unite a bunch of different factions, and he utilizes pretty much all of the different clans. So that's kind of more of what Depurium is. Have I read the new Gazgul book? No, I have not, unfortunately. I'm a little. I've running the YouTube channel. There's a bunch of stuff going on, and I haven't had a whole bunch of chance to read Warhammer stuff. I haven't read the new Gazgul book. I don't know if you've already answered this. Do you have a faction you like to play in Warhammer 40k? If so, why? I enjoy the two factions that when I was first introduced to the game, I played Space Marines. My friend had an army. He gave me Space Marines because they were easy to learn on. I played one match where I rolled. I didn't have very good tactics, but I also rolled really terribly. My dreadnought exploded the first round, and it went downhill from there. Then I really got into orcs when I played Dawn of War. I played the original Dawn of War in the expansions, and I really liked Gorguts, Ed Unta. Really liked him. That he's where I get my orc voice from. It's based off of him. I thought orcs were hilarious because I didn't really get what they were about until I saw that. And then from there, I started playing orcs, and I found from as far as the way I like to play, I really like the way Tyranids play. I've played as orcs, I've played as Tyranids. I haven't played for a long time. I haven't played for a couple of editions just because it's expensive and I don't have people around me who play. Do I watch anime? I do not watch. I have seen some anime, but I am not an anime watcher. I have a friend who is more into anime, and he will talk about things, but I would say I'm a Miyazaki fan. I've watched most of Miyazaki's films. And like I really like studio. I've watched a bunch of Studio Ghibli stuff, but no, I haven't watched anime in any kind of coherent fashion since I was in college, which was a long time ago. At this point, that was like how old am I now? That was 14 years ago. Was when I was consuming like a reasonable amount of anime. And when I was closest to getting into it, and then I haven't really been interested. I think there were interesting. There's always something going on in anime that I think is interesting, but so much of it, Japanese tropes bother me. Like, there's a lot of things in storytelling that in Western stuff that I overlook because it's just a thing that happens in Western storytelling. But sort of the given tropey things in anime, I generally don't like. It's like a lot of it is I really don't like when anime gets convoluted for no reason. It's like here's this thing. It's like I'd rather you clearly communicate your ideas instead of wrapping up a non-idea in overcomplication. And I'm being vague, and I'm also being negative about anime without having seen all that much of it. But that's kind of where my brain is on anime. I've also had a couple of animes where people tried to show me, and it's like, this is the greatest anime ever, and it was terrible. It was terrible. And I found it to be like a lot of recent anime that people have tried to get me to watch, which admittedly is not a lot. I have felt embarrassed watching it. So that has colored my opinion, which is probably not fair. Doodly doo. Animal killing. Oh, animal killing your chickens. See to that. I raised chickens for a bit. I worked at a agricultural museum, and part of it was taking care of chickens. And chickens are very good at getting themselves killed. They've been bred to not have great survival instincts. Yeah, I lost. Oh, geez, the Dreadnought exploding first round experience. Yep. Yeah, I had. It was a heavy weapons team. Like they fired a rocket and it just whiffed all of my saves, and it hit and exploded it right away. I think a bunch of why I haven't enjoyed anime in the past is because, is mostly because it's a cultural difference in the way that stories are done. Oh, Trishan with the big $50. Haven't made a live stream in a while, so I'm throwing money to compensate for that. All right. I didn't think. Thank you very much. Let's get some. I don't know. It's not an F in chat. What do you do for somebody who's rolling big in the who's putting down the big money? Don't F in chat. What would you do? Thank you very much for the donation, Attrition. You are, as always, are always welcome, and people have been actually quite generous for recently in the streams. A lot of my stuff has been very popular. I think dollar signs in chat. Yeah, big money in chat. There we go. Hearts are good too. I need a soundboard so you can cheers. Then I do. I need to get more sophisticated in what I do as far as my streams go, but some of it is. I sort of have to divide my time up in what I'm doing, and I probably could get more sophisticated with what I do on here. All right, that fellow who's totally not Trays in the Infinite. Farewell. Have a good one. But as far as things have gone recently with streams, I think people have. I think growing the tribe has been very successful. Stuff going on with Coram Pere 5 has been very successful. I think with the things I let people's donations do, it's been very successful. Where I let people have effects on the story of what's going on in these different places, that their actions matter, that or that their character, whoever this weird person is, gets to talk on the air. So I think that has worked out pretty well, and it's a thing that I very much appreciate, is that that I have a pretty darn chill community, that nobody has rolled up into one of my chats, dropped a bunch of money or like some money or whatever amount of money, and then like wanted something dumb to happen. Yeah, we got 13 people in, got 14 likes. I like it. Got plenty of likes coming in here. But it was one of the things that I see this. I feel like I say this every time I do a Q&A, but I feel like I need to give people value for their donations. So especially when Attrition is given like the big money, like I very much appreciate that, because not only because basically super chats are the thing that kind of fuel me financially for this sort of stuff. And being able to do a weekly stream and have people that are engaged, have people that like what I'm doing, and are able to support it. It just makes so much more money than the ad revenue that I get from my videos, which is like helpful, but it's more like a slow stream where I'm making like $5 to $10 a day, as opposed to on a good stream when people I can get what was the most I got? Oh goodness, I think it was when I had like over $200 from my from one of my celebration streams, one of my 10,000 subscriber video or stream rather. All right, we got Nick Fulton. Servo rats. What are your thoughts on them? I am not sure what are servo rats. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look up servo rats. Servo rats that the Imperium has servo rats are rats that the Imperium has converted into servitors and are used to reach small enclosed areas that are otherwise unreachable. Those controlling the servo rats can use the servitors' picked feeds to view the inside of the areas. I have never heard of them, but my drunk stream. Drunk stream, I made a lot of money because people paid me to drink. which is a good way to get drunk. Upon looking at servo rats, what are my thoughts on them? I think they're very interesting, and I might see if I can work them. They're nice. They're a nice little plot thing that exists. Well, I'm not cutting down my video production yet. I need to get into the internship program first, because right now I'm trying to get into the internship program. That's going to take a whole process. I have another class which is going to start in a couple weeks. That's going to last 3 months. Then once that's over, then I might have my internship will either start then, or it's going to be the next quarter after that, which is another 3-4 months. And then I will start. And then I'm not sure what my schedule is going to be like. It's not happening this second. I haven't started my internship. Yeah, I dig servo rats. I think it's a nice little hook. That's a nice little way. I can see a lot of interesting ways that can be used narratively. What am I doing for education? I am currently pursuing a master's degree in clinical psychology, eventually hoping to be a licensed counselor. Once I'm a counselor, I want to get some experience in a clinical setting. Once I'm pretty comfortable that I know what the heck I'm doing and have some experience, my goal is to go back and get my doctorate once I have a bit more money. Earn some money, go back, get my doctorate, and then become a psychologist. And my ultimate goal, I'll show you guys my dream, the dream that I really want to do. This is like my big important lifetime dream, is I want to reform the American prison system. And I can't really do that with authority unless I have the doctorate. So my plan, which is a very long time down the road, is I want to basically model prisons after there's a similar, so in rehab, in drug and alcohol rehab, most of the programs that are in like a group setting are 28 to 30 days long, and they occur in steps. You have like your first step, which is you're coming down off the drug. You are like learning some basic things. and then you're going on to like learning information about your addiction, and basically the whole thing is you're taking step by step, and you're getting closer to being reintegrated into society. Once that's done, there's also like follow-up stuff where people will go to like a halfway house. They'll continue to see a counselor. They will go to like group therapy sessions. They'll keep going. They'll keep doing that kind of thing. Um, there'll basically be a treatment plan for each one of these people, and I would like that to be a similar model to the way prisons are done, because basically in American prisons, what happens is you go into prison and then that's it. You most of your time is spent not doing anything, and when you have prisoners that don't do anything, they cause problems. They get into altercations with each other. They get involved in gang stuff. They get involved in drug stuff, and smuggling drugs in. There's a lot of problems in the American system, and I think one of the fundamental things is they don't give the inmates something productive to do. So I would like there to be a system where basically the idea is like, all right, you come into prison, depending on the severity of your crime, you're going to different sections of the prison, with like the most violent and dangerous people going to kind of the bottom level, metaphorically the bottom level, not like you're deep underground and you can't get out. Like you are in the lowest tiered section. And basically, you start off kind of, if you're at the lowest section, you need to demonstrate like that you're not violent. Like, can your behavior show that you can like get along with people and not be violent? All right, then you get to go up to the next level, and you then have a little bit more privileges. You have a little bit more freedom. You might be able to have more stuff in your room. You might not be. But that would be kind of it. Is you are, and then like as you're going on, you'd like learn anger management. You'd learn like skills for work. With the eventual, when you get to the end of it, you're basically you're almost like it's like you more like have an apartment in kind of a minimum security area of the prison, and you're going off to like work. The prison would coordinate with like employers in the area, and basically be like, we're going to have these prisoners who get out, and they're going to be certified in XYZ, and they will be prepared to do work that you have for them to do. So, all right, see you, Knox. So that's my. I believe you have a much higher chance of becoming a counselor than my ex. I don't think she will ghost every group that dare to criticize her in any way. How much of your own experiences do you put in your work? I have spoken to people who are military veterans who have had some pretty intense experiences. I was a supervisor. One of the guys who worked for me was in the military and then worked as a contractor, and he was in Iraq. He saw some pretty bad things. Had another guy who did 3 tours. He did 1 in Afghanistan and 2 in Iraq. He had some pretty rough stories. I've also heard stories that are covered in news. So I definitely have that. I definitely have used that in ways of evoking the feeling, but I also don't want to just make the war stuff that I do in my stories to be one for one exactly the way it is in real life, because this is a weird thing to say, but like war in Warhammer 40K despite being grim, dark, and horrific, is still really grandiose. Like, it's still these mythical figures, these mighty knights, these massive armies, these heroic last stands. There's still a weird romanticization of war, which, to be honest, that's what makes for a better um, the I'm sorry, I'm reading things and getting sidetracked from my own thoughts. Um, but I admit, like, having a point to war makes for a better story, when frequently war is the reason it's happening is for uh, not very interesting geopolitical reasons, and a lot of people are dying, and it's generally not for any reason. It's just war is just the reality of war is it's just horrible. Um, and there are stories that come out of war just being horrible, but people generally want to hear a story where something's trying to be accomplished. And frequently, in a lot of wars, you're just talking about, especially when it's like a civil war or something that drags on. It's just you have taken a wonderful place and just made it, or a nicer place and just made it unlivable. And so when I do my war stories, I don't try to super romanticize war, but I try to make there be more of a point than war typically has. So, do, do, do. Yeah, and it would be because one of the things that now one of the problems. So I'm responding to Robert Douglas. So he says, in prison, the hierarchy you're describing shows the capability of ascending through tiers by merit and by proving how much an offender has rehabilitated. The more they show promise of rehabilitation, the more the offender shows how well they've rehabilitated. In essence, showing how much they've improved towards their eventual reintegration into society, the greater privileges they receive. And and what is going to be a big problem in this is, like, one of the things that criminals get really good at is feigning sincerity. And the thing about what my model would be is you can't cheat your behavior. Like, if you're being monitored all the times, if we have, cameras all over the place and the cameras are well maintained and working, we know what everybody's doing. And if they behave in a way where they are, they are literally doing the things they need to do, they will learn how to behave properly. If they don't, if we have if we're able to kind of enforce that standard of behavior, they will learn the skills they need to in order to reintegrate, even if they don't want to, even if they want to cheat the system. I'd like to set it up where it's their ability to cheat the system is very limited, because they will learn the skills they need to be successful coming out of prison, to the point that it would be more financially viable for them to use their skills to improve their life instead of returning to drug dealing or white collar crime or other things. So, the problem is that some offenders are serving life sentences, and that get rather jealous of those destined to be released, and petulantly derail those offenders' efforts. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of life sentences, especially because there is a point where you're just keeping an old man in prison, and it's like, this person is the purpose. There's basically a rift in the United States justice system as far as what the purpose of prison is. Is prison punitive, or is it rehabilitative? And I think it's both. I don't think you want to go to prison. I don't want to make prison pleasant for people. but I want to make it productive, because right now what happens in the American system is people go in and they come out worse because they basically don't have anything to do, and all they do is interact with other criminals, and they basically it's criminal networking um, is what to be done. As far as no, I'm not in favor of the death penalty. Um, I keep saying I don't want to get political, but my politics keep coming up. But I would say that I am against the death penalty in all circumstances except if people are in prison and they keep killing people. Um, like, you literally can't be kept anywhere. You are literally too dangerous, and you're basic keeping a killer in prison who keeps killing while they're in prison is essentially, to me, you are condemning random prisoners to death by keeping this person alive. If someone cannot be kept anywhere and they are just, it's impossible for them to behave in a non-violent manner, that would be when I would say death penalty. But otherwise, I am not down for death penalty, and I'm not really down for life sentences. I am down for rehabilitation, and or even like having, even if we don't get rid of life sentences, because it's like you do that, or the alternative is death penalty, then it would be, I think it'd be good for there to be productive stuff for lifers to do, whether it be I don't know what it would be off the top of my head, but I would figure something out. All right, got some people leaving. Azakamak, farewell. Your sentences are weird, 300 years and such. The reason they do that is so that things don't get overturned on appeal. The reason you end up with people with 300 years in prison is to make sure that there isn't a technicality found in the evidence that overturns one of the life sentences. So if you have overlapping life sentences, you're ensuring that that person's not getting out. That's the purpose of like the 300 years and such. Now, I'm not going to get into the mentality I have. I don't want to get into the purpose when I'm looking at prisoners. I'm treating them as if they are clients. This is basically ethics from the American Psychological Association, and one of the big rules ethically is you have to look at your clients with, quote, unconditional positive regard, which means you have to look at this person, no matter who they are, no matter what they've done, and you want them to be better by your treatment. So it's like, it is. So what my job would be if I go through the whole thing, if I become a counselor, get my clinical experience, get my doctorate, go on to be a psychologist, sell my idea on, do a lot of research and really develop and solidify my idea as far as prison reform goes, and start actually having prisons that are modeled after this. I would try to carry that ethic of unconditional positive regard for whoever I'm treating. It's kind of like the way lawyers, if you are defending a mass murderer, it is your job as the lawyer to give them a defense. Like, that's your job. How the worst people that ever lived, how should they be treated? That's not really for me to say. But if the worst person in the world was was in the prison that was operating under my idea, it wouldn't matter what they did. It would still be attempting to treat them, attempting to rehabilitate them, and you can't bring, regardless of how bad they are, you don't that doesn't factor into what you do. The reason I chose the conditions that I had for someone being being executed if they continued to kill people while they were in prison would be to it's just that you can't keep this person safely. There's nothing to do. You can't treat them. You can't talk to them. You can't do anything. They're too violent, which is pretty rare. I don't think there's that many people that are, that are so violent that they couldn't be treated. All right, some people are leaving. I got Cameron heading out. Got Robert Douglas heading out. So long. If servitor sentencing was a real thing, I'd vote for it. I'm not a big. Got a couple comments. Not a big believer in forgiveness. I am, because if you don't have a path to rehabilitation, people will only get worse. If someone makes a mistake, if someone does something bad, there needs to be a path to getting better. I don't know. To me, being bad is like being sick. There's like you want to treat the person that's not behaving well, and get them to be a functioning, contributing member of society. If you don't believe in forgiveness, you kind of need to be a bigger believer in kind of putting people in holes, and you. A lot. If there's no forgiveness, a lot of people probably shouldn't be alive. If this person did something bad and they can't come back from it, there's probably a lot. And like you take that to its logical conclusion, then there's a lot of people who shouldn't be alive. So now putting them in concrete walls. Every time I hear prisons, I think of the anime in that one guy I hate rotting in prison. I don't want to get too much. I got into it because this is like my dream, my goal is to make. So there are two general forces that are pushing and pulling in when it comes to prison stuff. And for those of you who are like, man, I want some Warhammer 40K stuff. Well, prisons are grimdark. But one of the big problems is that there are two different forces that shape policy regarding criminal justice, and one is being tough on crime and punishing the guilty and that sort of thing. And it's like, okay, you do that, but the result is that a guy armed robbery that's 10 years in prison. Odds are he's going to that person's going to come out. They're not going to be better. They're going to commit the crime. They're going to go back to committing crime, and they're going to have a lot more people that they know that are involved in crime that they can coordinate with. So how do you? So it's like, no, I want to be tough on crime, high sentences, 3-strike laws, all that sort of stuff, and that's not effective for. It doesn't produce good results. It doesn't make things better. It does not produce a positive result on the population. Criminals stay criminals. But there is the other thing is people who kind of are very soft. It's like, no, people shouldn't. These nonviolent crimes. We shouldn't punish people for these things. We should be lenient on prisoners. We need to improve. Like, a lot of people who are on that side don't realize how bad things are in prison and how bad a typical prisoner is. And what I want to do is I don't want to be too soft, and I don't want to be like needlessly cruel. Like be unproductively cruel to people. I want I want people to get better. I want someone who is, going around causing untold amounts of damage to their families, to their community, to any kids they might have. Bad people, criminals, do an incredible amount of damage. And if you can get them to stop doing that and be a productive member of society, that is the amount of human suffering and economic loss that you've prevented is hard to calculate. Prison can be a wake-up call, but they actually, if you're a first-time offender, usually they're not going to go hard on you, and you'll get a relatively light sentence, hoping that it scares you and you're not back in the system. But most people who are in the prison system are in and out. Like, a criminal is someone who has committed a criminal offense, which is a felony. That's what a criminal is by the U.S. justice standard. It's an interesting idea of like of what I want there to be the best result while maintaining a proper ethical standard, and that's kind of my goal. No, yeah, I know. But I think there are general principles of what criminality is, and the definitions of what constitutes a felony is a matter for the courts and matter for the legislature when it comes to passing laws and what is considered illegal and what isn't, and what the recommended sentence should be for each thing, and then that's modified by judges. The U.S. justice system is very complicated, and it is, in my interactions with it, because I worked at a rehab center and was working with clients who had legal problems, and without going into details about other people's business, I was sort of both shocked by how effective the justice system was, and also how much of a pain in the butt it was, because you are treating, because law is basically designed to be fair. Like all of the different punishments are meant to be equal to the crime, and they're trying to be just in this. But frequently, when you are treating all people equally, so there are things that are placed on people that make it harder for them to, like restrictions and things like that, often make it more difficult for people to behave in that way. I think, Ibian, I think you were, with all due respect, I think you were looking at laws in a very simplistic way. It's not laws or whatever a politician says. There's an entire process of which laws are passed and signed into law and then interpreted by the courts, and it is a long. My parents are both lawyers, and my spouse is he's not a lawyer, but he went to law school. He graduated law school. It is a very complicated system, and understanding it is the only way that it's going to get better. But anyways, I'm kind of, so that's kind of my ramble on my goals and what I want to do and my thoughts on prison stuff. But I wouldn't worry as far as my channel goes, because I am doing because I'm basically working towards my internship, and I will let you guys know if that changes my release schedule. There might be some times where I'm not updating as often as I'd like, or I'm not doing my serials as often as I like, but at the moment, I am keeping my schedule the way it is, and making sure that I'm giving you guys, continuing to give you guys the content that you want. And let's see, anything else interesting going on my end? Do you guys have any more questions about the actual I'm trying to think. I'm looking at my list of things I wanted to talk about. Will they having chili fries later as a celebration? Oh, who is my favorite Primarch? See, this is the thing I think of when people ask me what's my favorite Primarch, what's my favorite chapter, and the answer I've kind of found is the more I learn about all of the Primarchs, the more I'm interested in and like them. Because I think one of my first Primarchs that I really liked, I really liked Lehman Russ. I thought he was really cool. I liked the Lion. I thought he was really neat. I didn't really like any of the Chaos Primarchs. I thought mostly because I thought falling to Chaos was lame. But as I learned more about the Chaos Primarchs and why they fell, it just gets to be more interesting. Lorgar is actually one of my favorite Primarchs, because he's one of my favorite villains, because he has the best villain. He's up there with Fabius Bile and people who get to have amazing villain monologues. Who else gets to have great villain monologues? I'm trying to think. But I really like how unlikable Lorgar is while still being painfully human. I actually really like Lorgar. I think, but pretty much any Primarch, when you learn their story, gets more interesting. I like Guilliman. I think he's pretty interesting because he's not one of the most unstoppable guys in a fight, but he has a head for logistics and for economy and for empire building. And he kind of has this Marcus Aurelius thing on him, where all of the pressure of everything is on his shoulders. The Brick Wall and the Petulant Manchild, I assume you mean Dorn and Perturabo. It's kind of whenever you hear about Primarchs, you kind of hear the meme version of them first, and then you learn about them. That's kind of the way I've experienced it, where it's who is Guilliman? Herder, Guilliman's a big blueberry. He wins all the time, but he has come back from the dead, and he really didn't want to come back from the dead. And now he has to deal with everything, and that's really interesting. I think that's super interesting. I think the conflict that went on between the Lion and Luther, I think that's very interesting, to have kind of brother versus brother. I think that Magnus's story is very interesting. I really like Magnus as a character, his tragedy. But you also get lol, Magnus did nothing wrong. And it's kind of dismissed in kind of a meme way. And I don't mind memes. I think memes are funny. But I think when people dislike Primarchs, it's because they've seen memes about them. Jagatai Khan, it's gotta go fast. And that's the meme for him. But he's a lot more interesting than that. Vulcan, the meme is he gives everyone hugs, which is delightful, but he's more interesting than that. That's kind of my opinion on the Primarchs. Is I think they're all in their own. The only ones that I don't like as much are ones that get less attention. Like I would say, like I think Ferrus Manus got a little bit shafted. Fulgrim puns mildly intended. But that's kind of my opinion is when we don't have as much stuff with the Primarchs, is that's kind of what makes me like them less. Yeah, I would say the Primarchs that we know the least about are the ones that I like the least. Like, I don't really like the two missing Primarchs. They could be more interesting, but the way they're kind of written, they can never be written as something definitive. They're always going to be a mystery. And because they're always going to be a mystery, like that's what they are. Their job is to be mysterious. And be like, oh, what happened? Let's speculate on that. And that gets people really interested. But it to me, that means they're never going to reveal who they are or what they were or why they were destroyed. And that is not, because I know the mystery is empty, and it's not that interesting to me. Now, I think it's interesting for people to take the Lost Primarchs and kind of write their own fan theories about them. That's kind of the value in the Lost Primarchs. Chain shovels, good or bad idea? I think that the meme about Kriegers using shovels to hit people is a meme that is funniest when it is being absurd. Because I can't help but admit that there are funny Krieg comics and things where it's just funny to see this little guy in a gas mask hitting people with a shovel. It's just visually funny. But I think making ad nauseum jokes about it gets old. Unless you're being like absolutely positively absurd. Like there was a couple of videos that came out that had like, the one was, I know they had the Venga Boys Boom 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 playing while they were firing artillery and dancing. The dancing Kriegsmen in the trenches is there were two of them, and I don't remember what the other song was. But that was very, very funny. All right, Nick Fulton, thank you for the 2. Are toasters just underpowered death rays? I would say they are. Well, they're not really rays. They are heated coils. They disperse heat, so it's not a ray. It's not a focused like a laser beam. It is, you ambiently heat the temperature around you. I would say it's more like an underpowered flamethrower. You're spreading heat out, and it's just immediately spraying, dispersing. It's not a focused death ray. What's your thought on box knots? What are box knots? I don't know what box knots are. Is that a 40K thing? You're going to have to explain what box knots are. Boxy boys. You're going to have to... Boxy boys. Is this like a children's? Is it like a game? Boxy Boy apparently is a video game. I don't know what Boxy Boys are. Oh, Dead Oh, dead. Oh, you just mean a dreadnought. You just mean dreadnoughts. What do I think of dreadnoughts? That is what we're just talking about. We're just talking about dreadnoughts. Okay. It's like I thought there was like a model that got the nickname Box Knot, or like there was something. That's fine. As far as dreadnoughts go, I think it is suitably grimdark to have a space marine who has been critically injured to be then interred in this ancient sarcophagus thing, and still, while being kind of a shell of his former self, still has to trundle out and go fight people. Even in death, you serve. I like the idea. I think it's pretty neat. I like walkers as much as they are impractical in like actual military application, because walkers are slow. Um, Everything goes faster on wheels and treads. Um, you don't let Primaris. I haven't seen Primaris dreadnoughts. Let me take a look. I didn't know they had Primaris dreadnoughts come out. I don't hate the design. It looks a little more Tau. Like it's like lighter. It's not as, yeah. It has a bit more of that kind of Tau Gundam-y feel. I want to look at a thing so I can compare. Let's see. Yeah, like I like the stiffer limbed version, like where you kind of have the big panels, the big shoulders. I kind of like it where it looks more like a big brick instead of like a more humanoid looking robot. That's kind of what I like in the mechs that the Imperium have, from the Knights to the different Titan variants. Is they're all kind of these big, blocky, clunky sort of things, but like brutal. Like they're like brutal and unrelenting. Um, and having the little, I like the little stubby legs over the giving them knees, and having like the big blocky. Yeah, kind of looking and comparing. That's kind of my thought process so far. Everything Primaris looks like they bred with a Tau. Yeah, kind of. Got McDonald's Sprite. I'm new to your channel. I have to say I love the AUG series. I'm glad to hear you say that. It's one of the ones that I'm most proud of. Thank you for your compliment. Redemptor. They actually kill the extra marine inside, burns them right out. They need to be replaced regular. How do I feel about Clone Grim? Clone Fulgrim? I don't know. Clone Fulgrim is like on the line of like interesting and stupid, and I'm not sure which it is. Like, I generally think clones are dumb. It's like, don't like when they did it in Star Wars in the extended universe. It's like, let's clone everyone. No, don't clone everyone. Clones are dumb. We don't need clones. I generally think clones are dumb. As a storytelling technique, it removes stakes from things, because if people can be cloned and this person's not really the real person, that's actually the clone, this is actually this thing. Like, whenever that happens in comics or whenever it happens in stories, clones are always stupid. They're not very interesting. In the case of Clone Fulgrim, they add a wrinkle in it because he's get Clone Fulgrim, and he's being raised to basically be an evil Fulgrim, and he like resists, and that's kind of interesting. Um, so that's kind of interesting, but it's also kind of dumb. Yeah, and then also you couldn't, because I don't think clones don't have souls in 40K, and the Primarch special sauce, I think their warpiness, the fact that they might be warp gods that the Emperor made deals with to turn them into Primarchs, where you obviously can't recreate that in a clone. But so it's either that Fulgrim, if not for the blade of Lair, which is just the word real backwards. If he wasn't corrupted by that, he would have remained like loyal and true, which like makes that blade a worse MacGuffin. That he just picked up this thing and it made him bad. Do you ever consider making the Adrian Pius promo video if you do implement the call for pizza? Might do that. That might be a fun thing. I think I don't remember all of the stuff I talk about in these streams, and I'm not taking notes while I'm doing it. It kind of, I either need to remember it or I need to like go back and listen to these things and figure out what I am missing. Can never recreate warp. It's like you can't stand in the same river twice. So you are a oh my goodness, who's Heraclitus? Heraclitus is you can't step in the same river twice. His student Cratylus says you can't step in the same river once, because the act of stepping in the river already changes the river, and the river is always changing. Oh, I did. Yes, I did a crossover with Voldemort. Yeah, it's kind of a silly video where I made it to 10,000, and Lord Voldemort did some silly voicing for me. He was super. I cannot speak well enough of Voldemort because he was completely a gentleman. He was super helpful. He was eager with, like, he had heard some of the stuff. I think when I talked to him, he said I hadn't seen any of your things, but like I've heard about you. Like apparently some of his fans had mentioned him to me. So it was when I reached out to him and spoke to him. He was very accommodating, very helpful. And then like I got stuck because it was like a weird thing where I got stuck at like 9,500 for a really long time, and I had actually recorded his stuff months ahead of time because I thought I was going to reach 10,000 a lot sooner. And so I actually had to change things slightly. Honestly, I think my opinion on the Primaris is they're dumb. They are a dumb idea. It's just dumb. It's not very interesting. Primaris Marines are not very interesting. You don't need a Space Marine. It's kind of dumb. What Voldemort is doing, and what I appreciate is, and I've seen this with other fandoms too, is he takes a dumb idea and he makes it more interesting. Yeah, his stuff on Salamanders are really good. I really like his stuff on the Sisters of Battle. Very good. Yeah, right now I'm basically at 16K. I am currently at 15,948. So hopefully in maybe a couple more days, I will hit the big 16K, which will be cool. My goal for this channel is my big goal, where it's like my first goal for the channel was get monetized. My second was hit 10,000. My third is hit 40,000, and then do the 40K video, because that'd be fun. And then my the biggest goal is get 100,000 subscribers, which I don't know how likely that is. I don't know how likely that is, but I didn't think I was going to get this far, so we will see. Now, I really like Voldemort. I haven't been following his stuff as much lately because I've been busy, but the things I've heard from him are very good. The best his Dorn saga was like incredible. That was pretty unbelievable, and he got the. I won't give it away, but if he it's one of his playlists is the Dorn saga, and it's a couple of. I think he compiled it into one video, and it's great. It's like 2 hours of cool Imperial Fist stuff. Would I ever do a celebration stream for 40K? Oh yeah. If I hit 40K, I'm gonna have a lampshade on my head and dancing around. I will. I'll probably do what I did for the 10K, which is do a drunk stream. But we shall see. Yeah, if there is, that is probably my favorite content. That I think that is my favorite 40 fan content 40K stuff that exists is his Rogel Door is his Imperial Fist saga. It's really, really, really good. It shows that because I think it's Imperial Fists, and he has one other favorite chapter that he really likes. I think it's Fists and Blood Angels. I want to say is what Voldemort's thing is, but I don't remember. I know he really likes Imperial Fists, and like you can tell his love for them. That's it. The longest second is that whole thing is really, really good. Have you ever thought about having kids? Yep, probably going to adopt at some point. Probably not now. Things are in flux at the moment. I would want to live in the house that I intend to live in for a pretty hefty amount of time, and we're probably going to try to adopt at some point. Yeah, if you haven't checked it out, it is the thing I would recommend. Like, I think it's better than the best of text to speech. I really like text to speech, and I really liked when they started getting more dramatic and serious, while still being really silly. But I think the longest second is probably the best thing that's 40K related that is fan created. Really awesome stuff. All right. I think I'm going to wind this down. Appreciate everyone. Apologies for kind of having a pretty ho-hum. It's not a ho-hum stream, but I kind of had a, just talking about random stuff stream. Once I get more caught up on things, I will give you guys more of the stuff that you like. But I wasn't in a position to cobble together something to do. I felt like I had exhausted all of my ideas, and I didn't have the time to think up something new to do. Let's get some F's in chat for TTS. They're making new stuff now. It's now World of Darkness. It's basically the same voice actors and the same basic characters. So you still basically have the Emperor. You have Rogel Dorn. You have they all have different names now, and they have slightly they're different designs, but they're basically the same characters. Warhammer 40K versus Star Wars by a fan with too much time on their feet. He's a great creator, deserves more attention. I will. I have not heard of it, but if you give it the recommendation, I might go check it out. I'm generally not a fan of cross universe things, but I think Star Wars and um, 40K can be interesting because I like to think of that the Force is kind of the same thing as the warp. Of it's this energy that is reflected by all living things, and there's a dark side to it, but it's like the Star Wars universe is not as messed up as the 40K universe. So their warp, the Force, is like healthy and not a giant mess. Um, and the horrors of the warp spot. So I think if you make Jedi essentially like equivalent of psychers, you can have the galaxies interact. If these are just different galaxies, the Star Wars galaxy is not ours, and the 40K galaxy is ours. So that could be a crossover that could happen. And by and large part, their technologies are equivalent, except that light speed, hyperspace in Star Wars is a lot faster. And what I think would be the equalizer is it's still warp travel. They're still essentially traveling through the warp, but their warp is a lot more calm than the warp of the Warhammer galaxy. So if the Warhammer folks showed up in Star Wars land, or if Star Wars folks showed up in 40K land, they would end up having the same faster than light speed capabilities. So that would be that's I have thought about this probably more than I probably needed to, but I think in some cases, uh, Warhammer and Star Wars can cross over more easily if you treat certain things as equivalent. I don't think GW is going to knock on my door. I think GW would if basically if they started doing stuff that's similar to what I do, and we're putting it up on Warhammer Plus, which I don't think they would. I don't think putting a bunch of audiobooks up on Warhammer Plus or having something like that, because basically I think they like fan content when it serves their purpose, which is it generates interest in the brand, it makes people want to buy stuff, and they don't have to pay anyone to do it. um, I think for all of the mess that happened with them shutting down animators, and I think that was a very bad decision on their part. I just I don't think they're out to get fan creators. I just think they don't handle things well. Anyways, um, trying to think. Do do do. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to write any sort of crossover sort of things, but like I'm not here to be like it's just not that interesting to me. Like I like Star Wars is like a very particular thing for me, and the thing that is not all that interesting to me is I don't think Star Wars as a universe is very interesting. I think Star Wars as kind of a theological, metaphysical hero's journey sort of thing is interesting. Um, I think doing some political stuff is interesting, but I'm generally not all that interested in the universe of Star Wars. It's more like because a lot of it isn't. I don't know. It's just I don't think a lot of Star Wars is all that interesting. All of the species that just happen to show up in and then you have to build off of what that whole species does. All right. I'm glad you enjoyed yourselves. We're getting a little bit on. It's been about an hour and a half, and I think I'm going to call it. I'm going to post my Discord for anybody who wants to join us. You're certainly welcome to come hang out. Zachary Weaver, who is Orpheus, and he's the head mod. He can kind of show you around, show you what's going on. And we also do have a lot of role playing that goes on there. A lot of different regular people who are on here are there. So if you haven't been there, definitely come check us out. Yeah, thanks everyone who donated. Thank you to Attrition for the big 50. Thank you to Nick Fulton for the 2 2s. Very much appreciate everyone that was here. Appreciate you guys listening to me ramble about my hopes and dreams, as well as talking about 40K stuff. I made you sad? Why did I? Oh, not under Disney? What are we talking about? I lost the thread. But yeah, no problem. You guys are all welcome. Make sure you haven't liked the stream, go ahead and like. Thank you all for being here and hanging out with me for a little while. I'll see you all around.